Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. And we got a fun show for you guys tonight. Real racing seems to have finally returned. We are not going to be covering Gulfstream, much to the chagrin of one evil Bob Dole. And yeah, we finally got the return of a real turf track. Caleb, they can grow grass in Kentucky, just not at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, apparently they can grow it anywhere else except for New Orleans and Louisville. So who would have thought that?
But I mean, to be fair, Gulfstream's turf track, brand new turf track, also had a bit of a rough winter, I think.
Yeah, I don't play Gulfstream. I mean, which I know comes as a surprise to everybody on our show, but I watch it, for contest play and things like that. And boy, was that turf looking rough the last month or so of the meet. I mean, there's like patches of dirt and chewed up brown spots. I mean, yeah, it was getting rough. So I think everyone should be happy that the luscious lawn of Keeneland is here for a month.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Tampa is Tampa, so I cannot recommend anybody, play there. But speaking of cannot recommend,
Mark, that's where you went. You mentioned it really.
Halfway through, I was speaking about someone most likely to retire in Florida, but I just couldn't work it out. So
you mentioned real turf racing returns, and then you didn't lead with Aqueduct, and I was disappointed. So, I mean, because real turf racing did return.
So
in a real track.
So you're telling me that I get all the jockeys from Gulfstream Park to go to Naira, and
they didn't go to Naira.
Paceless
they
races.
All went to Kentucky. They are all in Kentucky.
The first route where they go 50 to the half. All right, I'm going to tell you, yes, turf racing is back, Mark. I know you're excited for the return of Aqueduct and return of turf racing there, which means Belmont's right around the corner.
I'm not excited for that though. Sorry, Road Warrior. But I am excited for turf racing at Aqueduct, which I find to be a much more competitive, bigger field type product. I think Belmont, a lot of the turf there tends to get 6-horse, 7-horse turf races, where you get fuller fields at Aqueduct because honestly, Aqueduct is a little bit cheaper turf racing. So it may not be the classiest racing, but it's a more bettable, more playable product. I think there's more value to be had in general at Aqueduct, which I like.
Caleb?
I mean, I agree. I think I like me some turf duct. It's you don't get 5-horse grade 3s with Chad Browns. There aren't as many good races. It's not as classy, kind of how Mark said, but it's more competitive. I think it's a superior betting product, actually. So I'm in agreement with Mark, surprisingly.
I mean, this is a real bad start to this show, where we got Caleb already agreeing with Mark. I mean, it's no Keeneland, but we'll take it.
It's no Keeneland. I wouldn't go quite that far, but it's definitely a good product. I mean, there's 2 good turf products out right now, and I'm happy to have that. We'll just leave it at
that. Yeah, and I'll say I cannot fault the turf product at Keeneland. Keeneland turf has always been a very, very good product. Their dirt racing though is just
Kentucky, baby. I love Kentucky dirt racing.
Dude, there's so many they knew Kentucky specials and just horses that should be 10-1 that go off at 7-5, and you're like, why is that horse 7-5? And they win going your way, and you're like, where did that come from?
I love it.
But they all knew, and it's just I hate that.
Just give me it. I just cannot wait. I cannot wait for Kentucky racing to just continue, because without Sam Houston, this winter has just been an absolute, I don't even know, man. I've been getting killed. It's been really bad, but But yeah, now is really where we're going to get into the kind of the meat of the 3-year-old season here, right? We did have 2 preps this past weekend, snooze fests all around, with 2 horses getting just absolute perfect trips and winning. And I have a 3-letter word for both these horses that I'm not going to bet them at all. Apparently, though, I found out that I remembered when doing Drank and Champagne this week that I apparently called out Angel of Empire as a long shot horse to take a look at 56 to 1 in the futures pool. And while I made phone calls to Las Vegas for other wagers, I did not make one for that. So that one would probably I would probably be very happy to have 56 to 1 on a horse that I think has got a very, very small chance to win. Just to rub it into Mark's face because I can see his eyes twitching. There's
I
something
do
moving in
have
his beard.
a futures bet on Angel of Empire at 50 to 1
Oh, there you go.
offshore. So I felt pretty good after just a small bet, but felt pretty good. We'll see. Not my pick on top like of all the field, but he's definitely a horse I think has a big shot.
I will say that, Mark, at least you're on Angel of Empire, not Forte. So I'll give you that. I'll give you
I
that.
mean, as much respect as I have for our good friend Andrew Champagne, who is the world's biggest Forte lover, grinders don't win the Derby, and he's just a grinder. And if you watch the Florida Derby, I know everybody's talking about, he tripped out and this and that, whatever. Mage passed him on the run out. He was done as soon as they crossed the wire. I do not think that's a horse that wants to go longer. I realize he won from the parking lot, and I think that's what everybody's giving him a lot of props for. But I would not be excited personally to bet him back in the Derby. I don't like grinders in that type of race, especially given the point system now. And I think, Angel of Empire is a much more turn button. I don't know what you want to call it, but he seems to be a horse that can sort of settle and has that turn a foot late, which is what I think wins the Derby these days. I don't know. We'll see this. I'm actually interested to see the last 2 preps this weekend, or the last 3 preps, I guess. Because maybe somebody else shows up who's another interesting new face, and we'll get to one that I think could be one of those. So,
and then coming out later this week will be I'm going to do an 8-minute video telling you why you shouldn't bet a 30 to 1 in the field. Shout out to Caleb who got that reference. Anyways, so Road Warrior here has got a little comment. He says he doesn't agree about the field size in regular races at all. He said, regardless, I'd rather have 12 horse fields on giant turf courses than smaller ones. Too many traffic problems.
I disagree with him. I mean, I've looked at the Belmont product during the week, and you'll get these allowance or optional claiming races that are 6 horse fields. It's not every race, and I'm not trying to make that argument. There's some good maiden races and things, but I just think in general the betting product is better at the duct on turf.
Our friend Tommy got the reference. I think he might have been where I saw the post first, so that's pretty funny. But why don't we get into it here? We have, and we'll start here with the Wood Memorial here at Aqueduct. It's gonna be race 11 on the card. We're gonna be going 1.125 on the dirt in this spot, and we got a nice full field. Really makes you wonder why certain horses are not running in this race and picked other races. Shout out WNL. But you got 13 horses in this race. The morning line favorite, Hit Show, drew the outside post. Dreaded number 13 here for Brad Cox and Gary Mary West. Other horses in here that probably be short. Dreamlike. The Todd Pletcher horse is in the 1 hole, is the other short price in this race. And then you kind of get wide open, right? You got Slip Mahoney and Arctic Arrogance here at 6 to 1, and then basically everybody else is double digits. Morning line maker David Aragona really just thinks that all the money's going to go on the 1 and the 13 in this race. And I like one of the horses. And it's not the 13 Hit Show, but Mark, as the New York, the Aqueduct apologist, I'll go ahead and I'll let you go first here. What did you kind of see here?
Yeah, I think this is the draw in here to me is really what you have to, where you kind of have to begin and end this race, and it's what do you do with Hit Show in the 13 post. He's the horse to be here. He's really really but he's been looks real good. Won that option 100 at Oaklawn, came back in the Withers, kind of won for fun. Pretty, fairly impressive doing so, but he draws out in the parking lot. And there's some sort of questions over why he's here, as opposed to running in other races. I would imagine he's probably the other Cox, I know obviously Brad's doing a good job trying to spot his horses and not have them run versus each other until they get in the Derby. So I'm sure they're hoping to have him primed for the Derby, and maybe this isn't maybe they tell Manny don't beat him up too much trying to get a win here, although I'm sure they would like it. He can definitely win. I just don't love the I don't love the post draw, and that sort of made me do a little digging around in here and try to figure out who else made some sense. Dreamlight can win, sure, but I have a hard time taking a maiden who may have a case of the hangs in a race like this. There's a lot of question marks with this one, and I guess my issue with Dreamlike isn't that the horse can't win, because Dreamlike can definitely win. I agree with Nick. It's more the fact of I think this horse takes way too much money given his chances of winning and given all the question marks. So horse I landed on, and as my top choice is the I don't know what the other Cox in this race, and that's the 5 Slip Mahoney. I think there's a case to be made here with Slip Mahoney that this is a horse that just didn't love the off going in the Gotham, and you're getting value here because the horse just didn't love it. Dylan Davies gets back aboard, and he was absolutely flying home late. So I think Slip Mahoney in this spot is super interesting. He fires, and he he was rolling late, and a horse that the extra distance shouldn't be a problem for, and actually should move him up. So yeah, Slip Mahoney's my top choice in here.
Who's that? Where did that come from?
I'm getting booed, and we're 10 minutes into the show.
I mean, why don't we spice this thing up right away? I tend to agree with Nick. I like Dreamlike. I do have another horse I also am going to be using as an A in this race, and I mean, to be honest with you, it's more of a process of elimination here. Um, I know what a lot of these other horses are, and I don't know what Dreamlike is. And
I can help you with that. Dreamlike is Command Performance 2.0.
Oh, I was gonna say per the Caleb corollary, he's got one more shot to break his maiden before he's a complete toss, but apparently Caleb's gonna come right in there. So I'm gonna go with a horse that's lost a lot more than Dreamlike, and my other choice is gonna be the 7 here, Arctic Arrogance. I'm going back to Arctic Arrogance well in this spot. Ran a decent second to Hit Show, and I'm kind of taking the angle that I don't want Hit Show in this race because of the post, right? I'm going to fade because of the post, and Arctic Arrogance is had been running a lot. Finally gets a little bit of a break, so I'm thinking that he's going to come back and he's going to run, well, fresh off the layoff here. Something that Linda Rice does very well off the layoff. So I'm going to take a shot here again with Arctic Arrogance to kind of maybe take them wire to wire. The other horse, like I said, I liked it was Command Performance here in the 1 hole per Caleb's. Per Caleb's thing. I did look at your horse, Slip Mahoney, here a little bit, Mark. Probably kind of a B-type horse for me. But, yeah, I don't really want any part of the 13 Hit Show. And the fact that Caleb's already dunking on me means that he must love Hit Show in this spot.
I don't love anybody in this spot, but I'm certainly not going to use a maiden in a 13 horse field in a grade 1. Just no chance. Not at 7-2 anyway, maybe at 72-1. But Yeah, I do think Hit Show's the horse to beat. The post sucks. The post probably takes him from being kind of an ice cold single to me. Honestly, if he was drawn better, I would say he's probably a stone cold single A to probably an A where I'm going to maybe use two behind him a little more prominently than I otherwise would. I just think Hit Show is just better than these horses. I mean, he's got the distance. I mean, he blew the doors off, a couple of the contenders today in the Withers last time out. He comes into this fresh. Brad Cox is winning at a insanely high clip so far at New York. So he checks all the boxes. He's proven off Lasix, proven at the distance, proven at the track. Very versatile run style. As long as he can avoid being insanely wide, I really do think it's his race to lose. I do agree with Mark a little bit. I think Slip Mahoney would be my second choice, and one of those I would use kind of behind him. Clearly did not get his race last time where he came out dead last and made a nice run to be second, but clearly it's hard to think that's going to be the plan moving forward, is to come out last and try to pass the whole field for a horse whose prior best two efforts came right up around the lead. Another horse that we talked about a little bit was Josh's Arctic Arrogance, who I probably won't use, but I'm glad Josh talked about him because I had a hard time with this horse. His numbers fit. He probably gets the lead in here. His last race was excellent when you see just how fast that pace was. I mean, 48, 113, and 2 may not seem that fast, but for winter Aqueduct, that is absolutely moving. I mean, the pace figures on time for him came back all color-coded red. I mean, opening fraction around 150, I think. So just incredibly quick. The other speeds finished way up the track. So I thought he ran a good race there, but tough for me to go to this horse when he just really seems to have a case of the hangs. So I think he's an interesting horse. I would need a little bit better and more in line to go to him, though. But yeah, for me, it's the 13 is kind of who the race goes through. I won't be getting too creative. I tried to make a case for the 6, Clear the Air, who did have some trouble in the Gotham. There was a couple trips in that race, so I'd probably encourage anyone who's interested in this race to go back and watch the Gotham because there were some trips, mainly by Slip Mahoney and then Clear the Air. But it's tough for me to go to Heman Harkey in the Memorial. But he is a horse that I thought had a bit of a rough trip and maybe could have finished up a little bit better with a cleaner run in the stretch. So yeah, for me, it is the favorite, unfortunately, and I think he's going to be tough.
I mean, isn't it hard to go to Heman Harkey in like a $10,000 claim or two?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it also is. But
Mark,
this horse is probably going to be every bit of 60 to 1, 80 to 1 in this field. So.
Yeah. You got anything else to add, Mark?
No, I really, really don't here. It's again, I think we've gotten to the point where, and as much as I am the Aqueduct apologist, this race has definitely become like a C tier Derby prep, right? Like it's just not as good of a race as it once was, and I think the quality of the field shows.
Hit shows. No. Okay, we'll move on after that terrible pun here. Race 6 at Santa Anita. Got the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby, the Run Happy Santa Anita Derby. I think this is probably the most straightforward race of the entire weekend as far as the big preps go. I mean, I marked the wrong horse. Practical Move.
I was about to give you.
I was gonna. Yeah. No. Practical Move is probably the most impressive horse I've seen run so far. I think the figures fit. I think he basically towers over this field, and you're gonna need to have some horse move forward a very large amount, I think, to beat this horse in this race. I don't want to get tricked again because I feel like I get tricked by a West Coast horse every year. So I'm not going to say that he's my top pick for the Derby right now necessarily, but I don't know. I think he's got a really, really good shot at being the one that beats Forte in that first Saturday in May. I mean, I don't know. He just has looked the most professional so far for me. But the concern I do have going forward, not necessarily in this race, is who has he beat, right? Because we've seen a lot of these horses that are in this race. I mean, he's been dummying for the better part of a year. So, like, are these horses anything that he's been beating? And I kind of think that that's been the West Coast problem for the past couple of years, right? Is like, who have they been beating? You were having Baffert sending 4 or 5 horses over, and then you realize that they just took all the turns beating each other, and some other horse wins. So I think Practical Move in this spot is probably the most likely winner in all of the Derby preps, and is a single A for me. But Caleb, what do you think?
Yeah, so Practical Move was kind of a tough call for me. I'm not nearly as high on him as you are, but it's also kind of tough to poke holes in the horse, really. He did win, his last 2 races quite impressively when stretched out. But there's still some questions, like you kind of said, as far as who is he beaten and kind of. So I think you have to sort of differentiate whether you're talking about for this race or long term in the Derby, I guess. For this race, he's going to make my ticket. I think he's the most likely winner. I think other offer better value in terms of their chances to win relative to the price that you'll get and how they'll play in horizontals. But I do think that Practical Move is a deserving favorite. What I don't know is how he's going to do come Derby Day. And I know this isn't the point of the stream, so I won't go into that really. But we have not seen Yak shippers do anything for basically 2 years now. Whether they're Bafferts or Yak themselves, they've just been terrible. So I haven't seen them show up so far in these Derby preps. Haven't seen them do much last year with Taiba and Messier, or if Messier is even still running. But I don't trust Yak to get this horse to fire on the first Saturday in May, especially with the number of starts he has. I would be concerned he might be a little over the top. But with that being said, I mean, I'm not really against V5, but I'd probably punt to the 3 is the horse that I kind of find more interesting. Go Rocket Ride. I thought this horse ran a really nice race to be second to Practical Move last out. He was actually favored against Practical Move in that race, which tells you something about, perhaps how the public viewed that race going into the San Felipe. But I think that this is a horse that looked like he maybe just needed that race. He was kind of, up on a fairly quick pace, was able to work out a decent trip, but toward the end, he got floated out pretty wide into the turn. I don't think the trouble was significant enough that it cost him the race necessarily, but he got floated out pretty wide, and then Flavien Prat made the decision to dive to the rail and try to overtake Practical Move, who got just an absolute beauty dream trip up the fence. And I think, that probably just wasn't the best setup for a very inexperienced horse trying 2 turns for the first time, trying winners for the first time in a graded stakes. So a lot working against a horse with getting a less than perfect trip there. I think that Go Rocket Ride could be interesting, and I don't really see a ton of speed in here. I do think he has a pretty reasonable chance to go out there and secure position on the lead, and if so, I think that could be pretty dangerous in this race.
Yeah, there's a couple comments about Practical Move. I know we were kind of talking there, but Sixer thinks Practical Joe couldn't win going long. It'll be interesting to see how Practical Moves goes a little bit longer here. And Nick saying, yeah, that is a fair question. Can Yak keep this horse in great form? And it's interesting, right, that with all of the good horse flesh that was transferred over to Tim Yak, the horse that's been in his barn the entire time, that was the horse bred by Chad Brown, is the one that seems to be the only horse running. I think a lot of these other horses that have been transferred to the Yak barn have just not really done any kind of running. I mean, I don't think he's won any other preps except for the one with Practical Move. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And Nick also mentioning that the Practical Move's dam side has plenty of distance pedigree. So maybe something there. Mark, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, no, I think you guys covered the 2 most likely winners in this race. And I can't disagree with much of what you guys said, but I just for the fact of, I always think that the West Coast horses are suspect, and maybe it's my East Coast bias. So I ended up on the one sort of unknown outsider, and that's the 8 horse in here, Mandarin Hero.
Sorry, that's the East Coast bias alarm there.
That's the East Coast bias alarm. No, so I end up on the 8 horse, Mandarin Hero. It's a horse that, shipping over from Japan. If you watched any of the Dubai, or Saudi Cup races, you realize that, the Japanese horses are absolutely, taking no prisoners these days. Everything that shows up just is running massively huge. And this horse is what, about a neck away from being being undefeated in his 5-start career. Almost got up in that last race, and if you watch the replay, it looks like going a little further shouldn't really be a problem for him. I like the outsider angle here. I have no idea what I get for price, though. I could see this horse taking a ton of money and somehow going off at 4-1 or something stupid because people want, the Japanese horse. And I could also see this horse going off at 20-1. So I think there's, I don't really know what I get. And there's a price at that 8-1, 10-1 range that I think this horse is super interesting. It's a Shanghai Bobby, pretty well bred. I think it's interesting they decided to ship just one horse over. Normally when you see Japan shipping, they're shipping a plane full of horses. I thought it was interesting the ownership decided to come over with just this one horse. They're taking a shot and trying to get in the Derby starting gate. So I think he's really well meant. We'll see what he's made of come Saturday, but I think he's a really interesting horse, interesting outsider in a field that otherwise I think is pretty uninteresting.
Do you believe that I called Mark out for the East Coast bias, and what does he do? He goes to the Far East. Like, what the heck, man? This is just ridiculous.
I'm curious. That's a horse I didn't know what to do with that horse. I mean, I agree with kind of Mark's take. Is like I kind of want an outsider a little bit. There was one or two others I thought were interesting that maybe we can touch on later. But Mandarin Hero just doesn't this feel just a very weird spot? I mean, why not go through the Japan guaranteed, entry to the Derby or ship to UAE for 2 or 3 times as much purse money? I mean, why come here to run in this race? It just feels very odd to me. And this is a horse that's done all of his damage at kind of the Laurel Park of Japanese racetracks. He's not exactly competing at Saratoga over there. So I had a hard time knowing what to make of this horse.
I agree with you on all counts. Everything you said is accurate, and that's why the price has to be right. This horse takes a ton of money. No, I'm not interested. But if he drifts a little, he's an interesting outsider.
Yeah. No, I feel you there.
Mark, I hate to do it. I think you're getting a little too cute in this race.
So I get yelled at when I get chalk. I get yelled at when I go to try to find a price and get too cute. I mean,
you should know this by now.
Yeah, I know. This is still a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah. Did you listen to the podcast yet?
I did listen to the podcast,
and you
caught
a stray. You just get strays everywhere.
Every single podcast, I catch a stray. Yeah. I mean, this one was a short-winded stray. The previous one, I got like a 5-minute rant.
So. Yeah, we got like 10 minutes worth of stories in the last episode. But yeah, Nick saying Japan's gonna have to beat me. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is coming in here. And since you're pointing out, is that running line correct with 4 straight dead heats? No. I don't know where Brisnet must have gotten their data wrong somehow.
Yeah, maiden score was a 1 3/4 length. Next one out was 3/4 length, a neck, a head, and a neck. So the horse hasn't been winning by 20 lengths or something, but it seems to be a horse that's getting better and knows where the winner, knows where the finish line is, knows how to win. Those are all things that, in a 3-year-old crop are really big things.
Caleb, you said you had 2 other horses that you might have liked or other outsiders in
here.
Why
don't touch quickly. One of them who's probably not much of an outsider, honestly, but outside of the top 2 or 3 maybe is the number 7 Skinner. And I fall for these horses all the time, and I'll be the first one to admit this. These like sheriff's trained, Espinoza ridden plotters that have like one race with this like huge turn of foot, and then I bet them, like 4 times in a row, and they just aren't very good. Justique and horses like that. But this is a horse that I think the race that I liked was the last race in the San Felipe. I thought that was a impressive race. Looking back. And it's the same race that the top 2 contenders are coming out of. The pace really held together in that race. I mean, Practical Move kind of sat the perfect trip and got first jump up the inside. But the horses that were 1, 2, 3 finished 1, 2, 4. Skinner's the only horse that made up tangible ground. And coming out of the turn, looked like he was going to just run them over. Flattened out pretty bad. Timeform has that day color-coded as a light red, so implying a mild speed bias. That seems to kind of check out given the way that race ran. I thought he was against the flow a little bit, so I thought that Skinner might be a horse that is just going to keep improving with distance and experience. Curlins tend to get better with racing. The other one I looked at was the number 1. I don't get it. And this is a horse that normally breaks some of my rules, as he just broke his maiden and now he's popping up in a grade 1. But this feels like a pretty soft grade 1. I don't think there's a ton in here. And this is a horse that had 2 terrible trips in his first 2 career starts. Hit the gate, had to steady in the debut, had a terrible stumble second time out, and really wasn't beaten that much given the trouble. Finally got a clean trip last time out and, got the job finished as a pretty heavy favorite. So this is one that I think this is a very talented horse. This might be too much too soon. Like, absolutely, that's possible. But if I'm going to get, 20 to 1 on this horse, then I think I'll have him on a ticket somewhere.
PDT asking about National Treasure, the one that I accidentally had marked down as an A. He says the sheet pattern looks pretty solid. Caleb, as the sheets expert of the group, what do you think?
So, I have not looked at the sheets for this race, so that makes it a little difficult. But looking at Brisnet and Timeform, to me, I would almost say the opposite. This is a horse that looks like he hasn't moved forward at all since his debut race, or maybe you can give him a little bit of credit for that American Pharaoh, I guess, but he just hasn't seemed to have gotten any better, and that sort of is validated in the Sham, where it's a 5-horse field, 2 of which don't finish the race. So essentially, he runs last of the horses that actually finish the race. Yeah, both were his stablemates, but we saw Reincarnate come out and lose twice at a relatively short price at Oaklawn. Newgate won some trash race in California, I guess, but to me, he just doesn't seem like he's getting any better. And I don't expect him to get better as he leaves Baffert's barn and goes to Yakteen. I guess if you think he gets loose on the lead, maybe I could see that argument, because the race does kind of lack a clear pace setter. But he's not for me, but I know a lot of people do think otherwise. So, if you like him, then he might win at 4 to 1 and we'll all feel dumb, but he's not for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there, Caleb. That was exactly my take on him. He feels like the classic Baffert 2-year-old who just hasn't taken a step forward as a 3-year-old. If you look at his running pattern, and he's the kind of horse that I'm okay leaving him off at a somewhat short price. He would be probably 3rd choice in here, and letting him beat me. He's got to prove that he's moved forward when there's 2 other horses that clearly have.
Fair enough. I'm so on Practical Move that I don't really give second thought to the 6 in the spot.
Josh getting fooled by Command Performance. Josh getting fooled by West Coast Horse. We're about to have bingo by the end of the stream.
Yeah, this is gonna be bad, isn't it? Oh man, what race is Bluegrass? Bluegrass. Moving on to Keeneland finally. If you haven't checked it out yet, Drank and Champagne that we recorded yesterday came out this morning. We looked at Friday's All Turf Pick 3. So today we'll look at Saturday's All Turf Pick 3. But first, let's take a look at the Bluegrass opening weekend. Mark, you were already talking before stream how you got, if you're a pick horizontal player, you got your choice of, I believe, 3 pick 5s in this,
3 pick 5s
card.
on this card. Yeah, 3 pick 5s on this card. There is an all graded stakes middle pick 5 that starts out with just a crazy good race in the Commonwealth, and doesn't really get any easier the whole sequence. It's a tough one, and it should be a really, really good betting pick 5, or good, very playable, attackable pick 5 if you have some opinion. So it's a fun one. And honestly, I think this I haven't capped the full card yet. Pieces I've capped. This is really good. But this is Keeneland. That's what you expect. Big competitive fields, really good racing, high caliber, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and so race 9 here, the Bluegrass. You got the 5-2 favorite, Tappet Trice for Todd Pletcher and Luis Saez here. And then you got Verifying at 3 to 1. And then you just got, I feel like the race just kind of opens up from there. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so I thought this was the race where I want nothing to do with the favorite. I will not have Tappet Trice on any of my tickets. Boy, does this horse just lack a second, third, and he pretty much has a first gear and a fifth gear. And it takes him pretty much 3/4 of a mile to get into that gear. I watched the Tampa Bay Derby, and yeah, he got the job done, but I swear this horse was under a drive for 3/4 of a mile. Saez had to scrub this horse and ask him and push him. he does have somewhat of a tendency to come out slow. He's blown the brake in, two of his starts, and he never really breaks on top. I don't like the fact he's drawn the rail because I think if he comes out slow, there's a chance he gets shuffled way back. And I don't really think this race is going to come back to him the way that the Tampa Bay Derby did. I don't think there was really anything in that race. And I think he was probably just, truthfully, the only horse that even wanted anything to do with the distance. So yeah, I do not like Tapit Trice. I think that he's going to be everybody's Belmont horse after this race, which probably makes sense. Or maybe after the Derby, he's going to be everyone's Belmont horse. But I could see him potentially winning that, but I do not like him in here at all, especially at Keeneland, where the track tends to play forward. So I landed on the other of the, I guess, the top 2 picks as my top selection, the 3 verifying. And I'm not really in love with this horse, but I was just looking for somebody that fits on, metrics, speed figures and, connections that are respectable and everything else. And really from a pace perspective, he just stands out in this race. I don't know who can go with him, if anybody, and it isn't like he needs the lead. So I struggled. He just seems to get projects to get such a better trip than any of his chief rivals in here, mainly Tapit Trice, that I have a hard time really knocking him, even though I didn't really love him in a couple of his previous starts. But yeah, I mean, he's a horse that 2 of his 3 losses have come over and off track. So I think it's fair to probably forgive him of those a little bit. There is a bit of a distance question to answer. He's not really one going around 2 turns, despite the fact that he has a win at a mile. No, I stand corrected. Oaklawn is a 2-turn mile. So he does have a win there going 2 turns. So yeah, I do think that he's probably just, from a pace perspective, coupled with the talent perspective, I think he's the horse to beat for me. That Rebel last time out totally fell apart. I mean, deep closers ran 1, 2, 3. And verifying actually did have some trouble. You can tell it looks like he was starting to fade out the back. But once he got clear running room, he actually repassed 2 horses that already passed him. So I do think that he has a decent kick here. And he's kind of a begrudgingly top selection for me. Josh, I
Be
get the
honest with
feeling
you,
you're going to be
Caleb.
like, I just know you're not going to like Tapit Trice, but I feel like you're not going to like verifying and have some kind of like off the wall horse in this race.
So I tried to get there with verifying. He was probably the horse that I looked at the longest. Right? It makes sense. Brad Cox horse drawn inside, is going to be the inside drawn speed. I was looking at a horse like Scooby Quando, coming off of the Battaglia, coming out working really, really well for Ben Colebrook. Blazing Sevens, I wasn't sure what to do. I mean, I ended up landing on Ray's Kane, the 10 horse here, kind of just based off of the fact that I think that he's going to be he's going to get the trip that he needs, right? He's posted outside. He's going to get up. He's going to be 2-3 lengths off the lead, and he's going to make his one move. I kind of know what this horse is. I know what he's going to do, and he's got a couple of races I think that fit to win here. But like you said, there's just not a lot of speed. So probably my second choice is going to be the cheap speed 9 horse here, Major Blue. I was looking.
I'm calling bingo right now.
That's the end. We only need to
That's the end. We have Josh bingo.
Look he won wire to wire going 5.5 at Oaklawn. He's got one idea in his mind and one thing only, and that's getting out there to the lead. He's drawn in the 9 post, so I think it's going to be a little bit harder of a job. And honestly, this one's probably just going to get out there, burned, and finish dead last. But I think this is going to be your leader. I think, I've seen weirder things happen. I mean, last year, that Delta Downs horse won a graded stakes race with a jockey that no one had ever heard of.
You made a graded stakes race going 5.5, right?
Yeah, well, that's fine. This is Oaklawn, which is like the Delta Downs of the Midwest. So
this is actually Keeneland. It's not like Oaklawn, but
no, Oaklawn is the Delta Downs of the Midwest, and he's shipping to Keeneland. So, yeah, I mean, I was kind of spread here. I think Ray's Kane's my top choice here. I don't know how he looks on all the rest of the figures. He does look Like he does need to make a small step forward, I think, in Briz in order to be competitive here. But I don't know, the fact that Joel gets on this horse out of all the rest of the field here kind of also makes me think that that maybe he's got something here. Horse has been working well here at Keeneland. So I'll go with Raise Cane as my top choice. And then I'm going to be using Major Blue, Blazing Sevens, and Scooby Quando in some other way. Blazing Sevens, I don't know. I mean, this is like I said. Like I feel like all the good horses in this race, or horses that I'm not going to call Blazing Sevens a good horse, but competitive horses that have run figures that can win this race, seem to all be wanting to do it from far off of it. Tapit Trice, Blazing Sevens. Um, so I mean, Sun Thunder I think kind of fits a little bit, but he needs a setup, and I just don't know if they're going to get a setup in this spot. So I landed with the cheap speed, and I think a horse posted outside that might get a nice trip here. But verifying was definitely one that I looked at for a long time because I'm just like, who, if not him, who else, right? So, Mark, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, I'll put Raise Cane right in the winner circle for you, Josh. That horse is obviously flattered by that last out slot performance, which is why the figure came back so big. I just think he hasn't done anything to justify that he fits in this spot. I think that's a horse that just has a very very fake figure, and hopefully he's a bit of a takeout reducer for me in here. But no, I thought verifying made a ton of sense. In this spot, I couldn't agree with Caleb more on Tapit Trice. Tapit Trice will be at none of my tickets, given how this track plays. And watching that event, I know we were talking all the way through it when we watched it, and we're like, oh God, he's not running at all. He's like out the back, like this is over, and with about a mile left to go in the race, and then he comes rolling down the stretch. But he's going to be so far out the back. And this is Louis Saez, who's known to be a pretty aggressive jock early. He's just a horse that I don't know what his deal is, or if he's, it's a Tapit, so of course he's a head case. But I can't get there on Tapit Trice. But my top choice in here is going to be a horse you already mentioned. That's the 8 Blazing Sevens. I think he had a legitimate excuse in the Fountain of Youth where he got basically mugged coming out of the gate. He got bumped from both sides pretty aggressively early. He kind of, he sort of fell back, and then I just really think Rosario gave up on him. He never really tried to get him involved, never really tried to ride a race. I just, man, I know I can kind of draw a line through that. And, honestly, and then when you go back to his BC Juvenile, big field, there's a lot of horses that don't run you go into the BC Juvenile, you think they're primed, and they just don't fire, a game race or an A+ race. I think it's interesting that Chad sent him here where he could have sent him to other places and sort of duck company. I don't know if that was to get him, what he thought would be a local prep, or if it's an ownership thing or something. But I think to me, that's a bit of a vow of confidence from Chad that, he thinks his horse can at least run second in here and get enough points to get him into the Derby starting gate. So, I think, and I also quite honestly really like the jock change to a rad. So, I think Blazing Sevens is, an interesting spot here. Hopefully he gets a little lost on the board. And, I get some close, somewhere close to that morning line.
And you talking a little bit just kind of sparked a couple of things that I actually wanted to talk about. I agree with you. You crossed a line through this last race here in my pen work here. And you look at this running line, and I mean, this horse looks way, way better, right? With this running line, if you cross that last one, it says bumped both sides early. I watched the replay a couple times, and I really had to squint to find the bump that they were talking about. So I'm not super like, whatever. Something went wrong last race. Let's just cross it out. One thing that I did like about this horse, and another reason why I like Raise Cane, is it's got to run over the surface here, right? Ran at Keeneland, and it's got a good number here. Now, I always caution these horses, any horse coming back off of a BC race, because it doesn't matter who's making the figure. If the letters B and C are in front of it, the number's going to be big. It doesn't matter. Like, unless the horse gets pulled up, the number is going to be big, right? So take it with a grain of salt, right? The 94 Briz figure that he's got, I'm sure Bayer gave him like 104 because they think that any grade 1 needs an extra 10 points added to it, and fucking Bayer. But the reason why I really came back to raise Kane was, broke his maiden and has run probably his best race here at Keeneland. Obviously Corrales was aboard for that one, and he's just, he's on a different level than Rosario when it comes to Kentucky. But yeah, I don't know. I was a big fan of Raise Kane in this spot. I see Stuart from Florida over here. He says it's McPeak season. Any of you guys look at the McPeaks in here? Is he only got one?
I like two of his horses, and I don't know how many he has, but I'll be using two of his three, I believe. I don't think that Hay Strike, if he even runs here, has a shot. So I don't like the 5. But yeah, I think Sun Thunder and Mendelssohn's March both make sense. Sun Thunder I would love in this race if there was a little more speed. But I don't know if it's going to really set up for him. But we saw the Louisiana Derby. I mean, Kings Barnes probably with Murder on the front end, just about glacial pace. I mean, some of the slowest early pace figures you'll see. And Sun Thunder made a good run given the flow of that race. I just don't know if he's going to get the pace setup he needs to actually win this, but I think he's a horse that's very likely to run his race and probably hit the board. The other one was Mendelssohn's March, who I also like. An undefeated horse, once by getting put up and then once just outright winning. Turf and dirt, clearly a router given the way they started this horse. I think that, and Brian Hernandez actually gets off the other McPeak I just talked about, Sun Thunder, to ride this 11. So, we talked about the pace being soft. This horse has some speed. So, yeah, I think both McPeaks make a lot of sense.
Oh, PDT saying this is the prep for the arc for Sun Thunder.
I have to admit, I'm really surprised at how much love there is for Blazing Sevens. I threw that horse out within 15 seconds of looking at him. And so when you guys talked, I went back and looked at him again. And I'm like, I guess I saw no trouble in the Fountain of Youth. I don't see anything that makes me want to excuse that race other than the fact that maybe he just wasn't right. But I mean, if we don't like Forte and we don't like National Treasure and we don't like Gulfport and I just struggle to see how we can like Blazing Sevens. I mean,
he beat Verifying, who you mentioned is a horse you do like in this race. I
realize but I also sort of mentioned
slop going a mile, and it was in October, and I mean, there's a lot of I didn't even go there because I thought it was kind of a BS point. I just don't. Why is he in this race if he's not live? I mean, I don't. Why is
this feels like a small time owner that probably has Derby fever to me. I'm not super familiar with Rodeo Creek, but it's clearly not a Klaravich.
I believe it's Rodeo Creek.
Even worse.
I'm just kidding.
It's clearly not a Klaravich or Peter Brandt or any Shadwell or whoever else. I mean, this is I don't know. My thinking is they probably didn't expect him to lay an egg in the Fountain of Youth, and this is an audible to try to get enough points to make the gate. Is what it feels like to me.
Look, I'm just saying that if class matters, then Blazing Sevens is obviously the horse to play in this race. But class doesn't matter, so that's why he's got a B and a question mark next to him. I mean, right? Like you look at the 3 horses he lost to in the BC Juvenile, right? I mean, any of those horses running this race, they're the favorite. I mean, maybe National Treasure and Tappet Trice fight for favoritism, but National Treasure would have gotten bet the hell in this race.
I don't think that's even close to Ag. I don't think National Treasure would be in the top 4 in this race. He's not in the top 4 in a 6-horse race at Santa Anita. And you're telling me he's going to be top 4 here?
Oh, yeah. National Treasure is going to be the second choice in that Santa Anita race. I mean,
no chance. He's going to know better than third, and he might.
Look, I already dummied one co-host with this second choice talk. I don't need to do it for another. I already got the call in to make sure that Rocket Can gets wrapped up in bubble wrap for the Derby. So, but it was pointed out to me that I might backdoor into a second one just in case, because Cyclone Mischief I think also ran in the Holy Bull. And he is he's got like 15 or 16 points, or 15th or 16th in points, so he might have enough to get into just in case.
He might.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't know, right? I didn't know what to do, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe if this isn't a Chad Brown horse and Irad's not up, right? That changes the perception on this horse too, right? But I don't know. As much as everyone hates Irad, I mean, he's the best jock we got going. So, I don't know. I don't hate Blazing Sevens as much as I thought I would. I really thought I was going to come in here and like a horse like Sun Thunder, but there's just no pace in this race, and I worry about that. Anything else you guys want to talk about in this race? Did we talk about every horse? Is there any horse we didn't talk about?
I think we talked about
I
all
mean,
the
I covered
horses
the
that you
E8.
can.
I know that.
Yeah, I think you talked about all the horses you could make a good case for. I think with the classic car wash is the only other horse that I kind of have a notation next to. I just don't know really what to do with him. I like the jock change, but I think this is probably further than he really wants to go, and I don't really know how good he is. So, yeah, I think we got them all.
I did see Sixer made a really good point that Josh and the E horse is the free square. So I don't think we hit
I
bingo
laughed at
yet.
that.
That's good. I missed it, but that is very good. Yeah.
Uncle Sully asking everyone hates Irad.
I'm probably the Irad hater of the group, the most part, and I just think it's that he's always on the best horse, right? And then he goes to and he's Captain Herding, and he gets away with more crap than any other jock. He pulls more BS that's dangerous than any other jock, and completely gets away from it. Never gets called on it, and and he's a guy who's getting the top tier mounts of every of every barn. You're supposed to win at 30-something% when you're getting the best of the best of the best of everyone. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a winner hater, right? Like
The chalk eater is the winner hater. Get the F out of here. Honestly, what I maybe hate's not the right word, right? I think people just tired, right?
hate's the wrong word.
They're tired
right?
of them, right? You're
Yeah,
tired of
there
seeing.
we
You're
go. That's
tired.
perfect.
You're tired of watching Gulfstream, right? And it just seems like they just like the seas just part for him every time, right? And whether it's just like excellent horsemanship on his part or some other stuff, like I don't know, but right, like you just see it time and time again. He's on the 2 to 5 and just gets the dream trip. Like I don't know, it gets tiring, especially when you're watching Gulfstream in the winter. I don't think it's as bad over the summer. Because I think he gets a little bit more pushback from some of the other guys.
By the way, guys, I'm gonna have to silence Nick now. I'm sorry.
What, he got Whitmore to win at BC? Hey,
those are fighting words.
he did. Didn't he?
I mean,
though?
he did. That he's not incorrect, but he took that as a it is Whitmore. Come on, and that's also the softest Breeders' Cup sprint in the history of the race.
Ryan Howard said, "I thought everyone hated Flavian Pratt." All
all
right,
do.
Ryan. Okay, you win. Yes, everyone
wins.
does hate.
Ryan
Flavian
wins.
Pratt.
Yeah.
Irad does move up more horses.
He
than any other
does.
jock.
It's the way he moves them up that sometimes rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I forgot who I was talking to. I think I was talking to Andrew yesterday, and there was a horse that that lost by half a length, and there was some no-name jock, or I forgot. Maybe it was like Pablo Morales at Tampa, and Irad's named on the horse. I'm like, dude, Irad is definitely moving that horse up at least a half length, if not more. Like that, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a love hate, right? Like I think Road Warrior put it best, right? He's like, I can't say I really like any jockeys besides a couple, right? You love the jock when he makes you money, right? When you bet Irad, he wins at 4-1 as much the best, right? You feel like the smartest man in the world. You want to give him a hug, but
yeah. And to Uncle Sully's point, Irad, I think you can make an argument that Rad does move up horses. I don't know if he moves up more horses than anybody else, but he does move up horses. I can't think of a horse that Flavian Pratt ever moved up. I just can't.
Actually,
Oh God!
So, he moved up.
Really?
Country
That's
House
where you
by
went?
hitting that
That's
old
where you
objection
went?
button. Yeah.
He moved him up right away.
God, man, I didn't think like there are times where we're having discussions where I feel like the big thing now is the trigger warnings that you sometimes see like on the news or something. I mean, they've been around the news forever, right? But they weren't called trigger warnings. To be like, there'd be that warning that said, this seed may not be, may not be for everybody, right? Or I forget what the exact wordings are. There was no warning for that one, Caleb. You just kind of came out and just like took our legs out from under us there. Every time I think about it, man, I just think about my wife. My wife coming in and me telling her, I think I just won, $7,000 or whatever it was. And she's like, no, you didn't. Like as in disbelief. And then it turned out to be, no, you didn't. you know? And then I'm like, I can't believe I lost. And she's like, well, you didn't have the money to begin with, so you didn't lose it. God, not even sympathy for my own wife over here. God. Um, anyways, race
I
6
don't want to go
here.
down this rabbit hole, but
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, this is not.
this is gonna get
we're not
real
gonna,
ugly real quick.
this is not going to turn into a therapy session here. I love my wife. She bought me a early birthday present yesterday. She bought me a lovely Belvini 15, about $150 bottle of scotch. So shout out to my wife Eve. Lovely gift. It's delicious. Caleb, I will probably end up having to send you a sample of it because
Nice.
it's amazing.
Awesome.
But yeah, let's get into this turf pick 3. Why does it say one? Oh, it's $1 minimum trifecta, but the $3 Keeneland pick 3 here.
Yeah.
It's a $3 minimum, 15% takeout. I love this bet. Everyone loves turf racing. Everyone loves low takeout, and people maybe people won't agree with me with this, but I think everyone loves the high base wager. You look at bets like the $5 double, golden hour double, the $1 pick 4, the $1 pick 5 when the Stronach 5 was around. The payouts, you always looked at these races and like, wow, these payouts are nice. And I think a lot the low takeout and the high base, I think, is the reason why you see these kinds of payouts.
I think the other thing is, and we, I mean, if I know everybody's been dunking at least on in Discord this week on the computer assisted wagering, you can't pool spy and you can't get probables on a wager like this. So this is, there's no computer money in this wager, and I think that definitely does help people who are a little sharper handicappers.
I'm not going to say there's no computer money. We're going to say that there's
it's very limited. Yeah, because it's substantially reduced.
Because there's going to be some stupid shit where an article is going to come out from HRN about how 40% of the pick 3 pool is still computers, and we're all going to feel like idiots. So, but I think this is a great race. I think to start this off here. 3-year-old fillies. Now, Caleb, I don't know what you hate more: early 3-year-old turf route stakes races, or older horses going long, because I feel like you hate both of them.
Older horses still take the cake.
Older horses still take the cake.
There's form here. Like there's a surprising amount of form here for a early season 3-year-old turf route. Most of these horses have a handful of races, and I don't treat this any different than I really would a standard turf stakes.
Yep. So Pleasant Passage is your favorite here, 5-2. Cairo Consorts at 3-1. You got Alpha Bella 9-2, and then you got 6-1 at Papilio, and then 8-1, and double digits on the rest here. So, Mark, how are we going to start this off here?
I think this is a really, really tough race to start off this sequence with. I didn't want to go crazy deep, but like Caleb said, there is some form here. And I think kind of race begins and ends with Cairo Consort, at least for me. She's been in really good form. She's 4-9 lifetime. Does pretty well with this mile, or at this mile trip. And you're getting a rat up, but she's got a big field here. She's 100% going to have traffic troubles. He's going to have to hope the seas part. And I don't think they part quite as well in Kentucky as they do at Gulfstream. So, she makes a ton of sense. She completely fits in this spot. I think I wanted to go someplace else for my top pick. And this was an interesting race because it felt like Luis Saez has ridden about half of the, major players in here. There was about 3 or 4 other horses that he had been on at one point or another and had wins on at one point or another. And I found it really interesting that he ends up on this 6-horse, Be Your Best, for Horatio DePauw. A horse that we haven't seen since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly and Turf. Horse that they, I think, thought quite a lot of, and off the long layoff, back with a jock who apparently had a lot of other choices. I thought Be Your Best was extremely interesting in this spot. I can make a case for a couple of others, but kind of interesting to see where you guys fell.
Caleb?
Yeah, for me, I don't have anything really interesting here. I think I'll probably have this race something like AC structure, maybe, something to that effect. And Cairo Consort is my A. I remember 2 races ago in the Swedish Chant at Gulfstream, I was just massively against this horse. I was not impressed with her race post Breeders' Cup. I went as far to say she was a takeout reducer. And then the gate opens up and she throws her head and walks out of the gate just hopelessly last. And I'm already like, well, at least I don't got to worry about this horse beating me. And then somehow Cairo Consort just launches a ridiculous rally to get up. And yeah, ends up booming me. And I was like, wow, that was a nice race. The Hembra side, I'm not really going to hold that against her. That pace was just insanely slow. She was left with a little bit too much to do and still was clearly the best in that race given the pace to just miss by a nose or a head rather. So yeah, I think that she's the horse to beat. If Pleasant Passage had a prep and I knew what she looked like, between now and November of her 2-year-old season, I would probably give a nod to her. But I think right now, Cairo Consort is the fresher horse. She's probably the fitter horse. When they faced each other in that Breeders' Cup race, that was before the horse was transferred to Todd Pletcher. That horse did not have Irad Ortiz, who actually gets off Pleasant Passage to ride Cairo Consort. So I think there's enough here that is going to push me towards Cairo Consort as being my top pick, even though I recognize Pleasant Passage could improve a lot from that race and end up beating me again. It's not a race where I feel like I want to use both short prices. And if I'm going to use one, I'm going to use Cairo Consort and throw out Pleasant Passage and then try to work in a couple bombs underneath. But I'll see where Josh landed first.
Yeah, so I don't know. You guys, this horse left Nathan Squire's barn, goes into Todd's, and all of a sudden is throwing slower races. You guys are all over it. I don't get it. Shouldn't the Todd move this horse up? But I land on the other side of the coin flip, I guess you could say, of the two short prices. I landed on Pleasant Passage here. Ran obviously beat Cairo Consort on the surface last time running. I'm concerned about the layoff. I saw Nick was saying that Shug's not good off the layoff. I have different stats on Brisnut saying that he's 17% 90 days off, but I think DRF might
My
split it
stat
out
was
even
60
further.
was 61 to 180, 85
180.
sample size, 8% with a 64-cent ROI. So his horses off these types of layoffs take a lot of money and they do not win very often.
Yeah.
Again, that's how math works.
Yeah, and I was a little concerned, but then I kind of looked at the work tab, and the work tab looks like they've been working this horse pretty regularly for the last couple weeks, and it looks like the horse has been working very well. So I'm gonna kind of plug my nose and just be like, whatever, like take it. But I thought Pleasant Passage made a ton of sense in this race here. Seems to at least have a little bit of versatility. I know Briz has it marked as an S horse, but obviously came from off the pace at Keeneland and was on the lead in the Miss Grillo. So I think it's just kind of a versatile horse, and I think was improving, was going the right way, improved every start. And I think off the layoff is gonna fire here a little bit. So the other horse I liked in this race, and I also have marked as an A, is the 2 horse here, Papilio. Ran in that Here Comes the Bride as well with Cairo Consort. Has a little baby Z pattern that last race and still managed to close in second by a head to a slow pace. I know it was only off by 2 lengths, so it wasn't like made up a ton of ground, but did make up a little bit of ground in that race on the slow pace. JJC's fit to ride here. I think, Mark, you do bring up a good point, though. Hey, wide isn't size back on this horse here. So I guess I have a little bit of concern, but I think JJ's good enough on the turf. I'm not really going to be super concerned in this case here. So I land on Papilio as kind of my lone other A. I feel like if I went any deeper here, I would probably need to use a horse like the 3 Cairo Consort, and I feel like once I start going there, like it's going to suck all the value out of the bet. So I'll probably stick with those 2. Although there are a couple other interesting horses in here, I think.
Yeah, one of those interesting horses, and I kind of wanted Caleb's take in here on this rate on this one specifically is the 5 Alpha Bella. Rosario gets up for Pletcher. They have not been great together throughout the last year, and this is one of those horses that Sayas gets off. But they're cutting back here to a mile, which is where she broke her maiden, and then they tried to stretch her out, and she just couldn't quite get it done a little further. The figure for that Florida Oaks, at least on time form, came back massive. It's a huge fig. And again, a big fig in a losing effort. She only lost by a neck. But I didn't quite know what to do with her. And, I don't know. And again, race at Tampa, yada yada. But she's second off the layoff in the new year. Is there a chance that she just maybe improved a ton and is getting really good at the right time, and you might get a little price here, or you think that's a bit of a fake fig given the Tampa-ness of it, and she's a fade here?
I don't trust the figure personally. It's probably hard to definitively quantify that. We've only seen 3 runbacks. One of them was on dirt, so it's hard to compare. The other 2, they regressed 12 and 4 points. So I tend to think, and even beyond that, it's more so that it's not so much the regression as it is the fact that that's just such a big jump forward for a horse like that. I just don't know that I believe. I think Cairo Consort's figs, given some of the slow paces she's been in, are probably not representative, and she's probably better than that. And I think that the Alpha Bella race, to me, that just seems like the fig came back too quick. It is Tampa. I don't know that I trust those times. And honestly, Rosario's riding so poorly right now that I have a really hard time using anything that he gets up on. If Alpha Bella couldn't beat Cairo Consort in that Swedish chant where Cairo Consort didn't get out of the gate, I struggle to see her turning the tables today. I could maybe get there, but not at 9-2.
That was basically my take, but I wanted somebody else to say it as well. I sort of wanted to fade her given a number of reasons, but just it's always the ones you fade like that boom you.
Yeah. I did take a look at 2 what I assume are going to be bombs in here, and kind of I alluded to earlier. I'm probably going to play this more like an A/C structure where Cairo Consort will be kind of my only A in here, and the other 2, the horses I looked at, were the 8 and 9. Simply because I don't know where the speed comes from in here. The 9 would suggest to be the most likely leader. This is a Jonathan Thomas, Augustin stable horse. So, I mean, they do well with turf. This is kind of their bread and butter. And this is a horse that has 2 wire-to-wire wins that weren't even all that close. Probably gets the lead. Is she going to be good enough? I don't know. But, as a horse that has a decent chance to get loose, I will pay to find out at 10-1 on a horse like Well Into. The 8 is, if I was going to use ABC, the 8 might be a D on my ticket. But the horse did flash speed last time Ricardo got up and then ran a pretty respectable figure. The figure actually came back about the same as to what Well Into ran last time out. And this horse actually has more versatility and doesn't need the lead. 30-1 seems like a silly price to me on that horse who, was competitive against some really good horses in her 2-year-old season. Does have to deal with the layoff question for sure. But, if she can improve off that November fig or even in the Jessamine, I think that she could have a shot in here. I mean, like I said, she's a C kind of horse, but one that I'd want some exposure to.
So I had a question for you, just talking about Cairo Consort. Does time form like the last 3 races better than Briz does?
Time form has her last race about the same as the BC Juvie.
Okay.
The prior 2 races were slower, but I also tend to think the BC Juvie Phillies turf race came back too fast. There's been about, I think, 6 runbacks from that race, and Cairo Consort ran back in a winning effort, but still regressed 9 points. Chad Brown horse came back and ran 4th, regressed a point. Another horse came back and ran 2nd, but regressed 10 points, and then won and repeated that fig basically. A Jonathan Thomas horse, Delight, who was well thought of in that race, regressed 14 points next out. I think the figure's too fast is kind of my point.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
because Brisnet hates the last 3 races. That's why.
Well, Brisnet's not going to factor pace, so I think the February and January race, I think you can probably take for what they're worth. I would ignore the Brisnet figure at 75. I think that's a factor of just a really slow pace.
Yeah, but so Timeform actually has a pace flag on that last race at Gulfstream. So they've just moved the flags over. So they're saying that figure may be suspect, and I tend to agree here. She's very talented.
What's the raw fig for the last one unadjusted?
It's a 91 adjusted to a 106.
Okay, yeah. So they really adjusted it.
But the come home was, she was flying late. So I did have just a general comment. It's not really about, well, I guess it is about this race, but it's not about any of the horses in it. A race for 3-year-old fillies, and there's not a Chad Brown horse in here to be found. I was sort of shocked. And I mean, I know we haven't seen much of him done at Gulfstream. We haven't. It doesn't seem like we've seen as many Chad Brown horses at Gulfstream that are monsters. I'm just sort of kind of wondering what's going on.
Be your best.
I thought Horatio DePaz isn't that one of his? Wasn't that one
it was one of his? Yes, yeah. It was at one point in time. But they've been. I think those barns are quite separate at this point. I don't think it's like a Baftine.
Yeah, it is weird, right? Because I mean,
that's his bread and butter.
That's Chad Brown. Routing on a turf is like Chad Brown's wheelhouse. So yeah, I agree. It is weird. All right, let's keep moving on here. Race 8, one of Mark's favorite races of the year, every year, the Shakertown.
I wish they would just rename it after the horse who won it twice. The Bound for Nowhere Stakes. It's got a great name. Nowhere. Come on, yeah. Who doesn't like Bound for Nowhere?
And so are they gonna rename the Jaipur to the Disco Partner?
I
mean, they should, right? Actually, isn't Naira making a black type stakes the Disco Partner? I think they're giving him mistakes. Yeah. And I think it's a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. I think at Belmont that they're calling, and it was something before, and they're making it anyways. Whatever.
Yeah, Nick Feldman saying there's a Chad monster running Friday. Carl Spackler.
If you would like to hear all about Carl Spackler, tune in to the podcast from this week where one member of the Drankin' Champagne team waxed poetically for what felt like half the stream about that horse.
And the other one was told he hates money.
Yes, I think that also did happen.
Yeah. So race 2 here in this pick 3. Caleb, are we getting tricked by Johnny Unleashed for the 3rd year in a row?
You're damn right we are. There's the GR Dingo card.
Oh no! Oh man, I finally got off the train.
I'll take my money.
Oh man, yeah, I don't want any part of Caravel in this race. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting too like grumpy and anti-chalk, but I mean 8-5 on this horse just seems. I don't know.
She's really 8-5. I don't know lines.
8-5 on the morning line. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like.
And it wouldn't surprise me if she's shorter when they pop the gates.
I mean, honestly, my top pick is the 12 Arrest Me Red. I posted on the outside here for Wesley Ward. I mean, the turf sprint. I don't know what happened, but I mean those other figures that this horse has been running. I don't know. They fit right in here. You're gonna get. I know he's not riding super well as of right now, but you're getting probably the second best turf sprint rider, in my opinion, in Joel Rosario.
Who's the best?
Luis Saez probably.
And Javier Castellanos not better?
I don't think so.
At Saratoga, he won half the turf sprints. He was like a 43 or 45.
All right, we can argue about this later. All right, I'll shut my mouth, Mr. Saratoga over here. But I don't know. I thought Arrest Me Red. I just think that he's going to present value here, especially if Carroll's going to get bet to his morning line. I mean, I think 9-2 is more than fair on this horse. Maybe posted that far outside, you got a little bit of question. I mean, really, Rosario's only got one option, and it's to go. And maybe you're a little concerned that maybe he doesn't. Not alone A. I'll say he's my top pick in this spot, but I think he's going to present a bit of value here. The other horse I did like was another speed horse that's posted inside, which is Artemis City Limits for Mike Maker and with Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. He's the inside drawn speed. I think he'll probably get off the line a little bit better than even Mr. Johnny Unleashed. Yeah, I just think you see a lot of ones in those PPs, and if he gets out there and gets on the lead, I think he's going to be the one that they're going to have to catch. So those are my two A's. I'll let you guys. I have one B in this race, but I'll let you guys go. Mark, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, so Josh talked about Artemis City Limits, and this is one of those horse that on figures this horse makes a ton of sense. Horse is over Fort Keeneland, and if you look back through the gelding's career, he has not fired well off the layoff. When he comes back from a layoff, he normally needs a start, and he is first off the layoff here. So I realize the Rad's getting aboard, and that makes you kind of question, is he really live here, or is maybe he more live than he normally is off the layoff? But I tend to believe he probably needs one, and given the Rad up for Maker angle, he probably ends up shorter than what he'll end up belonging in this spot. I think and Caravel makes a ton of sense, and I can't really fault anything that Caravel has done. Horse loves to win, and loves this 5.5 furlong trip at Keeneland. Is 2 for 2 across it, and has hurt me quite. I think I was against Caravel in both those races, and the mare made me look like an idiot. So she makes all the sense. She's got it. I think on my ticket she'll be an A. I realize she's going to be dumb short, but it's one of those things. You really want to burn, a B to a Caravel by soft fading or knocked out of something where there's a lot of I think price potential in the sequence. But my top choice in here is actually the 5 horse, Mr. This is a Win Catalano horse who, if you look back historically, this horse is 3 for 5 on the turf and has never missed the exacta going that trip. Time Form loved that last out race. All of those turf trips are at a 5 furlong distance. I realize we're going an extra half furlong here, and that could make all the difference. But, this is one of those kind of know them early and hope they hold on late types. But I'm getting 6-1 on a horse that fits with all of these on figures at least. And, I think it's kind of horse that seems to be pretty good. I realize, not beating anybody in that last out, but, race at the fairgrounds for much cheaper. But that was clearly a tune-up for this race. So I think Mr. Here is super interesting if I get anywhere near that, 6-1 morning line.
Yeah, so I guess I see the race as kind of a combination of Josh and Mark. As for the Josh half of that equation, I'm also against Caravel. Caravel can win, but it won't be with my money. She caught an enormous break in the Breeders' Cup when Golden Plow, when he missed the break. I mean, that changed the entire dynamic of the race. And she was loose on the lead, had no pace pressure, and was good enough to take him all the way around. I can't see that happening again. She may be on the lead, but you have to think she'll get some company. And she'll be way too short off the Breeders' Cup win. So she'll have to beat me. And she could, but, I'm not going to use her. I do kind of agree with Mark, though, that I think that Mr. Is really, really interesting in here. I generally have been downgrading Fairgrounds turf form just kind of across the board. I don't think they had a good turf product at all this year, given the turf course condition and field size constraints. But that's not just kind of an anomaly race. Like, yeah, the figure is kind of an anomaly in terms of how fast that last race came back. But this is a horse that's clearly just been better turf sprinting than dirt sprinting, and the connections can't seem to figure that out for whatever reason. But she's, 5 starts, 3 wins in 2 seconds out of 5 turf sprints, compared to 1 for 9 dirt sprinting. Yeah, I think this is really, what he wants to do. And I think there's a risk that he bounces out of that last race, but I think that the price kind of justifies the risk of that happening. So I do think he's really interesting. Beyond him, I think if you're fading Caravel, the obvious 2 horses to use are Artemis City Limits and then Arrest Me Red. But I really have a hard time taking either of them. Neither are the most reliable horses in the world. Neither of them seem to run particularly well at Keeneland. So I landed on 2 very distant outsiders. The one I prefer is the number 2, Mark of the Z, who likes to win. 11 wins from 40 starts, including a record of 6 for 14 when sprinting on the turf. 2 wins in a second out of 3 starts at Keeneland. I mean, there's a lot to like here. Ran a nice race in an allowance race back in October. Came back and ran a decent second after that on the barn switch. So this is a horse that I think has ability and also has some speed. Speaking of horse that has some ability and has some speed, the other one I used was the one Johnny Unleashed. If he wins, it's going to be with my money, and I'll be damned if it's not. I do truthfully think he's more likely to hit the board than he is to win. He doesn't really do very much winning, and it's hard to think that there's a new top in the 6-year-old gelding at this point of his career. But I think the price will be enormous. His form is very dirty. He clearly doesn't care for the synthetic surface. He clearly doesn't want to go a mile. But if you just kind of focus in on his turf sprints, the majority of them are good. And the majority of them at Keeneland are very good, actually. So I don't know that he can win this race, but I think that, he can probably get a piece. But really, I'm going with the 2, Mark of the Z, and then the 5, Mr. M, as my top 2 selections.
Just when I thought I was out, pull me back in. God, Johnny Unleashed is going to end up on a ticket. I'm going to put him as a B.
Oh, Johnny Unleashed is going to end up on a ticket of mine. It's going to be a C ticket, but I'm not going to Corrales at 30-1, boom me at Keeneland. That's just, no, not happening.
Dude, I just remember, was it the Shakertown last year? I forgot what race it was, Caleb, but there was one where we were both on him, and he was like 30-1. And he did everything he could to get that horse home. Oh, man. It might have been the Shakertown last year where
it was the Shakertown last year where Golden Pal nailed him he was doing everything he could to get to Golden Pal and just couldn't quite get there. No,
and then I think Caleb and I both were like, oh, we probably should have played that exacta, huh?
Yeah, because he was like 70-1 or whatever, right?
We were both all over him.
Johnny Unleashed, I think, falls into Mark of the Z. You can make an argument that Johnny Unleashed, Mark of the Z, and Mr. M are all 3 horses that when you look up dirty form, you look and there they are. These horses that how in the hell have the connections not figured out? This is what they want to do. This is what they love to do, and just do that with them and don't try to do other things. It's yeah.
Look at Caleb. If we need to get this ticket home, I'm gonna just need you to talk to your girlfriend's mom and be like, don't you think crawfish are better steamed? Right when you're in the middle of a crawfish boil on Saturday.
That's right.
Get the fireworks going early. We'll
Johnny Unleashed just all of a sudden re-rallies up the hedge and
Caleb gets hit in the head with half a cob of corn. I did have one other B in this race, and I don't know, maybe it's me being showing my Chicago bias here, but what do you guys think about Bad Beat Brian in this spot?
I think it's you showing your Chicago bias.
It's me showing my Chicago bias. I don't know. I think the horse has got a couple of races that fit, but I think the problem is probably that this horse has also been beaten by basically every single horse in this field. I don't know. I think the number's competitive. It's probably more of like an underneath type horse, if anything. I just thought it was an interesting spot for this horse to kind of, just show up here in this race.
Doesn't he sort of need the lead to win, and he's got no shot in hell of giving it because there are about 5 horses that are substantially faster than him early in here. It looks like he only kind of wins when he can wire, and there's just no chance he can wire here.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, and I know, like I said, this is a 6-year-old, and I'm going back to form from last year, and obviously in a different barn, right? But I mean, that optional claimer at Churchill, that race fits in this spot. I think here. I think the Woodford
he ran huge at Kentucky Downs as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I joke saying it's a Chicago bias. I mean, I don't love him because I think he wants longer than 5.5. I know that he has 4 wins at this distance, but he just always strikes me as a horse that'd be better suited for like a New York 6 or something than a Keeneland 5.5. But he's not. I wouldn't knock you for using him.
That Polly Pop.
Yeah, you're right. He does really scream with that horse that needs to go to Belmont and run a 5 or Saratoga and run a 5.5. That's actually a 6 and a little bit. And like that should be his trip.
Anything else in this race you guys want to talk about? No?
I don't think so.
All right, let's go to the payoff leg
green
here.
a little too much.
Huh? You drank a little too
So
much?
we're all no. I said we're all agreeing a little too much. It feels like we're all in kind of the
I
same
feel like
general horses.
we could probably hammer a consensus ticket. For like, although I always forget, right? It's a $3 bet, but you could bet $4 on it. So I'm like, oh well, we could hammer this for like $9 or whatever.
Yeah,
But
I
it's just like,
never.
wait,
That's a really weird thing because it always seems like every other wager you have to, wager in denominations of the base. If you play like, I don't know, if you're going to play the, whatever, the golden shower double, you play in denominations of 5, 10, 15, 20. You
you
can't
can
play it
bet
for
you
like
You
can
don't
bet
have to
you can
though.
bet it for
And I
six
blew Josh's
dollars.
mind when I told him.
You can bet it for six
Really?
dollars. Yeah,
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I'm
I
dead
didn't. How
serious.
did I
It's the
not know
dumbest
this?
thing in the world. I never knew that either.
Yeah,
It
I
was
had
I can
like
play
crazy.
like the
$14 in
golden
my account,
shower.
and I played like a 2x1 $7 double. And Josh is like,
So
"Wait,
I can
you
play the
can
golden
do
shower
that?"
for like $7, and that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
a legit. Really?
Yeah, dude, it's wild. I didn't know that either.
Wow.
Um, so I was pretty spread in this race. Um, and there's a bunch of AEs that I think are also interesting. So this is kind of a tough race. I think both the 14 and 15, if they draw in, are very interesting in the spot. Um, I'm not going to spend too much time to talk about horses that may or may not draw in. Um, I,
You
I'm not a huge fan of this 3, who's also a short favorite. I think he kind of got the perfect setup last time out and got all the pace in the world in front of him and still came up a length and a half short. So I kind of just like want to toss that horse just based off of fact got it set up, didn't win, is going to be a real short price here. So I do like the second choice here, 5-2 Mondego. Going to be inside drawn, going to be the speed, I think, in this race. Christophe Clement and Joel Rosario, for as bad as Joel is riding, they're still winning at 25%. So I thought that this horse made a ton of sense. Lope de Vega, which is a win early pedigree. I don't know. I thought the 1 makes a ton of sense, right? Two super logical horse may even go off as your favorite. I don't know. The 2 other horses I like in this race at kind of a price. The 4, my boy Tony, another speed-ish type horse, coming off a synthetic, which, if I remember correctly, I don't think speed was great. I know he did kind of he had it all his own way on the front end, but Turfway wasn't really playing the speed much of the meet. Horse has been working really, really well here at Keeneland, so I think he's going to be worth another chance, second off, and at a pretty decent price. But a horse that I know is going to be on Caleb's ticket,
The
7 horse, Lincoln Highway. Caleb, is the 7 on your tickets?
He is not an A, but he is on the ticket.
Talk to me about the 7. Why is the
No,
7 on your tickets?
an old angle that hasn't done as well for me lately as it did years ago. Kind of like Javier Castellano just in general. He's is G. Watts Humphrey in Kentucky. This is specifically in Keeneland. Owner, breeder, he points his horses to the Keeneland meet. This is where he wants to win. And he gets some home that look like they have no business winning. This is a race where I don't know that we have any absolute monsters. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go out and say this is my top pick. I mean, the works are a little bit lackluster, but and the stats for Vicky Oliver first time out are not great. But Bejarano takes the mount. That is her first call jock. The turf pedigree is there. There actually is 2 turf winners, including a stakes winner in that pedigree. So I do think that there's some reasons that you could be optimistic about the chances of that horse, probably at 30-1. But yeah, definitely not like a top selection for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was looking at HTR, right, this might be a bells and whistles type thing, right, where you see the pedigree's pretty good. Obviously, Quality Road is good on both surfaces, but is decent on turf. And also, embarrassingly, I called her Vicky Olivier, and I was like, oh my goodness, I pulled a mark.
You did.
And then that's when Mark caught a stray. Right after I did that one. But the G Watts Humphrey angle. I mean, I don't know. When Caleb mentioned it to me once, I thought he was joking, and then like literally, I think I saw it happen like 7 times at meet, and I was just like, I'm an idiot. Should have listened to him. But I have it as an A, as a question mark. It's probably more of a B type horse, but I knew Caleb would have something interesting with that horse. But Mark, where did you kind of land?
Sort of like Mattress Mac at Kentucky Downs. You know, Mattress Mac is going to get one at Kentucky Downs, so you always cover him in those races where you know it's going to happen. No, you cover the 1 and the 3. They both make a ton of sense. I think Josh also mentioned, I think the 13, 14, 15 are all live horses in this race. If any of them are able to draw in a lot of things to like on all 3 of them. The one horse you guys haven't mentioned that I thought was a little interesting was this 2-horse Wim Hof. You know, Jonathan Thomas trained horse. Jonathan Thomas, you know, I always think of him as being a really good turf trainer. You know, puts Vinny up here, who, you know, I know he has had success with him in the past, you know, nothing in the past year. You know, Ghost Sapper on top, Monarchos on the bottom, pretty turfy pedigree. You know, and I'll give this horse one more shot. It's, you know, Jonathan Thomas is pretty good with these, with a maiden second out angle. And, you know, I thought this was an interesting horse who, you know, a lot of times horses don't fire first off, and this is a huge price for connections that Jonathan Thomas always scares the crap out of me. I play a lot of tracks that he has horses at, and he's the kind of guy that these are the kind of horses that fire big prices. There's some things to like, and they just boom you. So I thought Wim Hof at a big price was kind of interesting in here.
And something's going to have to give. Vinny has got 1 turf win this year in 1 try. He's 100%. Jonathan Thomas is 0% in his last 7 tries, second grass race. Something's going to give.
Someone's got to give. No, I mean, I always think I used to play a lot of Tampa. I haven't played as much. And the turf at Tampa, Jonathan Thomas used to just dominate. He would win everything there. And then he would ship. You know, he would use Tampa turf as a prep, and then he would ship to wherever he was. You know, wherever he thought the horses belonged. So. You know, it looks like he's moved his tack around, he's moved his barn around, but this one also has some pretty damn good work since that last out, you know, effort. So yeah, we'll see if this one's actually live. But I thought it was an interesting spot price play.
I love that too, Mark. That's
Okay.
my top pick in this race. I watched replay. Yeah, horse ran a Z pattern, just was kind of stuck inside and just looked hesitant, looked a little bit skittish, a little green, wasn't willing to go up the fence in tight between horses, so ended up getting shuffled back to last. It shows him in 9th, but he was actually, you know, quite a bit last, just in between calls there. And then once he got clear, he you know, put in a nice run. But the part that I thought was also impressive was the gallop out. I mean, he gallops out a mile ahead of the winner and second place, pretty much the rest of the field. You know, and I'm not. Sometimes gallop out is meaningless, but this horse just strikes me as one that I think is going to want more ground. Is going to want every inch of a mile and an eighth. So I completely agree. I'm not a huge fan of Vinny us taking the mount here relative to Jose, but I think this is a horse that just makes a ton of sense. Because I kind of agree with Josh. I think the 3 horse as the favorite makes sense, but boy, did he get a setup and just couldn't get the job done. You know, went off at 14-1 that day, and now you're taking 8-5. Between the 2 quote unquote logical horses in the main body of the field, I much prefer the 1, but the 2 is the best value in the field, I believe.
Yeah, the thing is though, if Jose's on that 2, what price do you get? Less than half that?
Probably half, yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious. Did you guys look at the 10 at all? That's kind of the other horse that I had marked down as a bit of an unknown off of some dirty form. I mean, the maiden race at Aqueduct in November came back really fast on time form. I mean, it was a very fast pace, and the horse really kind of just got caught. The race 2 back, I mean, he didn't run all that well necessarily, but the race came back pretty lively with Batflip winning a couple, and then Calic going on to win a couple as well. He had a barn switch, and the next 3 have been synthetic routes at Turfway, which he's not been the same horse. Perhaps he's not the same horse in the new barn. Perhaps with a slight layoff, something went wrong. But he's a horse that I thought looked really interesting if he can get back to kind of those 2-year-old turf route kind of numbers.
Yeah, I thought the horse was interesting if it fires back to the 2-year-old figures in a different barn. But, you know, I think what's kind of scared me off is 3 races in a row of declining pattern is not something that I love to see. No class relief for anything else. It felt like Yeah, I mean, at 15 to 1, yeah, dude, take your shot. I mean, if you're getting that kind of price, totally. Because honestly, Timeform has that Aqueduct November race is the fastest race in the field by a fair bit. So if you think that figure is legitimate and the horse just is wanted to get back to turf, at 15 to 1, you're going to steal.
Yeah, I mean, this could just be another case of a horse that doesn't like synthetic, though. I mean, the last 3 races declining form, all 3 races on synthetic, and now obviously had Grace McEntee aboard for one of them, but then also had the leading rider at Turfway, Walter Rodriguez, for the other 2. So I don't know, maybe horse definitely has got some ability, and maybe 15 to 1's the right price. Ray Lou's coming in here, fresh off of being leading rider at Fairgrounds, and I feel like he's really starting to come into his own. So yeah, maybe this is the best price you get on a Ray Lou horse this meet. I don't know. I think I already marked the horse down to take a closer look later. But I think you make some good points, especially if that Aqueduct race came back that fast.
Yeah, I just marked the horse down as well. So, Josh, what's your take on Chilean sires?
I have never. I mean, I love Chilean horses, but they got to be going a mile and a half. I did want to get to. I know Nick did a really good little write up here on the 6 horse I've been meaning to get to here. So it's a single in the turf pick 3 here. The 6. He's got swagger. I know Stu earlier said it's McPeak season. Maybe it's going to be McPeak season the entire day here. And he says, obviously Dynaformer going longer, which we all know is Nick Feldman's favorite angle. Any Dynaformer on top going longer. So obviously Temple City here routing. He said fade to Fairgrounds, but this horse I think was hurt by the Fairgrounds turf, so moving him up. He thinks this is a beast of a horse. And the 6 has had the pace from the last 2, 52.5 to both times. So he thinks with a little bit more pace up in front of him that maybe this horse gets it done. What do you think?
Isn't this the same Nick Feldman that said that he's fading everything out of Fairgrounds until
He did.
proven otherwise?
Exactly.
Okay, just checking, making sure
But
we're
he
talking
thinks
about the same
he
Nick
thinks this
Feldman.
horse was hurt by the Fairgrounds turf.
But he's
so he
fading
won't
the
take
thing that
winners. He
thinks
won't take
hurt the
winners
thing.
from Fairgrounds, but he'll take losers.
I'm so confused.
Mark, it makes it's simple science. It makes total sense.
Makes all the
But
sense.
no,
in the
I
world.
totally.
Okay.
But I understand what he means, right? Like especially like if I'm looking at the running lines. I mean, it doesn't seem like the horse was anywhere near the outside rail, which is the place to be routing. So maybe Mr. Brian Hernandez was just on the wrong part of the course the entire time. So
What's
I don't know.
to
What
say
do you guys
Mr.
think?
Brian Hernandez won't also be on the wrong part of the track this time as well.
I mean, I think I didn't look at the horse that much at first pass, but digging into a little more, I mean, I think I could be convinced to move the horse to like a B. I don't think I have the confidence that Nick has to single this horse, for example. But I think that in both of his races, he kind of was against the flow of the race where it was kind of run up front, looking at the charts. So I don't really maybe put that much stock into 52 because they're, seconds to the half, because I think that the rails at Fairgrounds were out, 870 feet the entire meet. So the timings are kind of meaningless. But yeah, I mean, I think this horse ran good. He does seem like one who was against the flow of both of his starts and the race flow, and he seems like he should want another 16th. So yeah, I mean, I think that horse makes sense. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, I can't disagree with Caleb here or with Nick. It's a horse that I completely disregarded at first pass, and I've just made a note to take a little bit of a further look and probably rewatch those races. There's a bunch of angles that I don't like in here, but it's a horse that does. I can get there with a little squinting. There are other horses I like more, but it's a horse I probably have to include in a race I think is a little spready. Am I getting defensive B on a 5-1? Really?
I'm kidding. Oh man, I felt like there wasn't enough use of the soundboard today.
The soundboard. Okay.
Yeah, I was already thinking of a couple of other sounds I need. I think I need like a Zorro type like sword swoosh for Caleb's Z pattern. So
okay,
I'll have
there's a couple of them today.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look for that one, but. And then we need some like electricity for G Watts Humphrey. Oh no, Caleb. Oh man, But I don't know. It's a good card. Mark, I know there were other races in here. Were there any other races you wanted to talk about? Or was there anything that
I
you really
don't,
liked?
if other people don't have them capped, probably not. I think
Okay.
the race of the day is the Commonwealth, that's just race 5, 7 furlongs. Honestly, there are 10 horses in that field, and you can probably make a case for basically all 10 of them. Nakatomi is going to be, your morning line favorite, and it's going to be fairly short, being 3 for 3 at Keeneland. But I don't see why Nakatomi is that much better or that much more likely of a winner than others in this race. And I think there's some reasons to be against that horse, given the fact that none of those wins have really come going this trip. And I think there's an argument to make that Nakatomi wants to be a little bit shorter than this. It might not necessarily love the 7 furlong trip. The real reason I want to talk about this race is for one particular horse that our host has a love affair. I had the wrong race. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not this race.
Sorry, wrong race. But no. I mean, I think that this is a pretty wide. I think it's a much more wide open affair than the morning line says, and I think I am 8 deep here in my pick 5 at first pass. So we'll see what scratches produce, but it's a pretty interesting race and really fun one.
Yeah, it's an interesting race. It's a 7 furlong sprint with no speed in it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a shot that long range Toddy gets the lead in this race. I'm not even joking. Look at this race.
He said, "Get the lead, Caleb. Just get the lead."
I mean, I didn't say he was going to win. I said he might get the lead in this race, and I mean, what happens from there is between long range Toddy and God. I mean, I don't know, but
you're right, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe like a horse like Run Classic, maybe he kind of inherits the lead in here, or Nakatomi. I mean, Nakatomi's not necessarily. It has shown a little bit of speed here, so yeah, I think it's an interesting race. I think it's a great card. I think Friday and Saturday, great card, both of them. I mean, I don't think you ever really look at a Keeneland card and be like, no, this is a trash card, which is probably part of the reason, being kind of a boutique meet, only runs for a couple of weeks, right? They have a bit better chance to do that, but yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll be pretty Keeneland heavy, I think, for the next couple of weeks, just because I feel like that's like one of the few tracks that all three of us play pretty heavily. Maybe Mark's probably the lightest of us on that track, but still he plays most of it. So I do see Nick has got a question for Mr. Structure over here.
Yeah, no, I am a more true ABC type player. Where I do, but I do put a little leverage in there. I do like, especially like a pick 5. I'll like to at least have, more than base to my all A's. I do like to have a little more leverage up front on those type of tickets. But again, it does depend. Now, I'm not somebody who, I think certain people will look at a pick 5 and they'll say, "Oh, I need A's, B's, and C's in every race." I am very much not that person, and I tend to not play those sequences if I have that. I at least do like to have a couple of opinions that I'm more heavily levered to build around. But I am a pretty true ABC player, in 10 of it.
Maybe we should do a video on this one day, because I think it's funny, because I feel like you got Mark on one end, you got me on another end, and then Caleb, I feel like you fall like right in the middle.
In the middle, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Where Mark is very much like traditional A, B, C. He's going to play it, and I'm very much a 2 or 3 ticket player, where I play a caveman base ticket, or I mean, if it's a small enough, I'll leverage it up. But I'll play that. And then I'll usually play a ticket, and then I'll play an even smaller press ticket. And it's kind of almost like a waterfall method, right? If the press ticket hits, all 3 or all 4, however many tickets I placed in, win, right? So it's pressed up, kind of like a waterfall almost. I think that it would be great if we just kind of like took like a hypothetical, right, ABC, whatever, and we all 3 of us build tickets from it, and you'll be a little different. Caleb kind of is I don't know, you're probably like almost like an AB player, and then you sometimes have a saver ticket on top of it, kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, I go back and forth, and it kind of depends on the sequence in question. I mean, if I can cover my opinions for less than $50, then I'll probably just play like a caveman and then 1 or 2 press tickets and just kind of go with it. But there are some sequences where I'm like, man, I have like 6 horses here, 5 horses here, and like I don't want to weight them all equally, and it's too much manual work to sort of split those out by myself. So those are the kind of races where I'll actually set up A's, B's, and run through a ticket maker. I don't use many C's. I mean, very rarely will I have a C. But if I'm going to use a C, it might be like a saver against, if I have a single that I'm building my ticket around, I might play one ticket with other horses in that leg that my single's in.
Yeah, because like I'm very much like AB only, and I will break it out by race. So I will be like, all right, like let's say let's hypothetically, right, we're talking about the pick 3, and my strongest opinion, right, might be race 1. So I'll have race 1 the same in all 3 tickets, and then race 2 is my second strongest opinion, so I'll have 2 tickets where race 2 differs, and then maybe race 3 is 3 different, right? And so it's 3 tickets where it just kind of runs through the different combinations, and they're all pressed differently based on how confident I am in the legs. So I think it's like I like talking about it. I feel like I'm just like spewing nonsense. So it's like tough, and I think like it's definitely something I think we should do a video on and kind of just like walk through it. Yeah, and I like Nick. He says ABC gets a little annoying entering all the tickets in. If you set it up correctly, it's nice, but he likes pressing. Like, yeah, honestly, so in talking with Tommy Massis, the way he got me to think about it a little bit differently, because when you do ABC, every ticket you place in, after race 1, some of your tickets are going to be dead, right? Or after, if like a B comes in, right, some of your tickets are dead automatically right away. Whereas if you play kind of the waterfall method, there's a chance that every single dollar that you put in through the sequence comes back, is realized, right? If all your A's come in, versus if you play ABC, you are playing tickets that have no, like, you can't hit on all your tickets if you play ABC.
I mean, I feel like we're about to dive down a rabbit hole, but
it's
technically, if you play more than one horse in a caveman in any leg, you're having losing tickets. So that's not really any more true than ABC. You're just playing more granular tickets.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just.
But I get the point. I mean, in terms of I get what he's saying.
Yeah. I inherently dilute myself, and I'm very aware of that. But it's all you dilute yourself, but occasionally you catch those double Bs that pay massively. So it's all how do you approach, and yeah.
And I mean, Mark also drinks whiskey with ice, so he also dilutes that.
I do. I dilute everything.
Yeah,
start my life.
But yeah, no, that definitely. I know Mark's got a video up on our YouTube about ABC method, but we've done videos where we handicap the same race, but maybe not necessarily handicap the same sequence, but maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll pick a sequence where we take somebody else's handicapping, or maybe one of us handicaps it or whatever, and then we just kind of all build tickets based off their handicapping, and you can kind of see how we structure it a little bit differently. But
I like that idea.
Yeah, that's we'll put that in the idea bin there. But yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend of racing. Poor Caleb. It's gonna be a crawfish boil all day Saturday.
Yeah, it's gotta be rough. It's gotta be the crawfish boil.
Yeah, I mean the crawfish will be good. We'll have some beers. It'll be fun, but I'm sure I'll be checking my phone with my crawfish fingers all afternoon.
Yeah. And then your girlfriend's gonna toss your phone into the boil.
That's right.
As the last spice.
I will say we need to get Josh Jess's mom's cell phone so Josh can just text her randomly.
Dude,
A, it would make this way more fun, and B, if we need a winner, we can make that happen.
I know. I got it in there, but I promise to only use the power for good, not evil. So, but I mean, 15K is 15K, So,
you gotta save it for the right moment. At the very least.
Save it for the right moment. Save it for like Derby Day when we're live to stacks in the last race, and we need Forte to flop or something. But Mark, are you skiing's done?
No, I'm skiing this weekend.
You're skiing this weekend? My goodness.
For Bromley, and then I'm skiing the weekend after as well. So I will be skiing, but I'll be around a bit. Not sure how much I'll be playing. It is. I was amazed. It's Players Championship weekend, and it somehow snuck up on us. So a little bit crazy. I don't think I'm going to play PC for the first time in about 3 or 4 years, and yeah, do a little skiing, get it while it's good, and yeah.
Yep, and make sure you reach out to Mark about the group ticket for Kentucky Derby. So make sure you reach out to him on the Discord. All things straight to Mark or Champow's.
Josh, 2 can play at this game.
I mean, I'll put the tickets together. I'm not going to listen to anybody though. So, but that's going to do it for us. Check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at _wrong lead, or at wrong_lead on Twitter. Obviously, all of our Twitters are on here. Check out Drank and Champagne if you want a little bit of insight on tomorrow's Turf Pick 3. And as usual, yeah, we'll be around. So, you guys got any questions? Feel free to ask. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we will catch you guys later.